Hello everyone, welcome once again. What we are discussing is in the continuation of the previous sessions. We have been talking about generation of potential solutions. So far we have seen standardization and benchmarking, different types of benchmarking of course. And then we also looked at the Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats. So if you would have noticed, we are looking at typical ways of generating solutions, which is benchmarking and standardization, very famous common ways of generating solutions. While Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats talks about creative thinking, lateral thinking approaches, not something which we follow in a structured manner. Similar approach is also used when we look at the other method, which is called as the mistake proofing. If you can see my screen here, we're talking about what is mistake proofing. It says making it easy to do right and impossible to do wrong. Mistake proofing is also called as poka-yoke in the Japanese, P-O-K-A-Y-O-K-E, poka-yoke in Japanese, which means avoid the inadvertent error, means any error that can be preventable, stop it. Mistake proofing means the use of low cost devices or techniques to perform 100% inspection as a means of eliminating defects. Mistake proofing assumes that even the most conscientious, well-trained employee will occasionally make errors, prevents errors from becoming defective products, is one part of a large inspection system. Now, one thing that you have seen in the first statement, we said that even the well-trained employee make errors. So the basic concept behind mistake proofing is errors will happen. To err is human, which means no one in the world can stop an error. So if no one can stop the error, why are we studying mistake proofing? We need to first accept and acknowledge that errors will happen. Variation will always be there. So we need to understand the psyche behind an error, and we need to target the psyche and not the error itself. If you target the site, if you target the location or the process behind the errors will stop on its own. So that's what we are trying to understand it. What is the meaning of psyche here? What is the source of error that can be understood? So if you look at the next slide, we're talking about there are 2 states of a defect. How a defect actually happens in a process. How a process creates a defect. So the first state is, in a first process, error is about to happen, or a defect is about to occur, because error will lead to a defect. Okay, so we are predicting a warning signal will come that defect is about to happen, and then after the warning signal, maybe there is a control or a feedback mechanism just to ensure that an error might happen, and the shutdown means stop the operations, let's first correct the error. That's a manufacturing environment. In a service industry, what happens is we do the audit. Typically we do audit in 2 ways. One is when an error is caught by the customer customer comes and tells us. Second situation is we are doing the audit before the process goes to the customer. In that audit we find the error and we try to correct it. So here the operation does not stop, but we give the feedback. But in that entire process, there is no way to catch the error unless an audit happens. So audit is the only mechanism to tell us there is an error has happened, or the customer is telling us an error has happened. So there are only 2 ways. So there is no warning, there is no way to stop it. Now another method where we have developed a method where the errors will not happen. Number 1, error has occurred, defect has also occurred, warning signal, control feedback, and the shutdown. So error is also, in the second scenario, talks about error has already happened and we are giving a feedback and we are stopping these things and we are trying to correct it. The first one that you saw on the left side was about before the error has happened. So mistake proofing, if you see on my slide, which is called as poka-yoke, avoid the inadvertent error. That's what we talk about mistake proofing here. So if you look at my slide here, we'll talk about some more examples of mistake proofing here. So in the mistake proofing, we use the creativity to create devices that allows us to do our job 100% defect free 100% of the time. So for example, if I talk about home, automated shut off irons, child proof caps on medications. If I talk about some very general examples of the mistake proofing other than what you see on the screen here, when we are going on the road, mistake proofing can be in many ways. It can be electrical thing, it can be electronic, it can be a warning, it can be a alert also. When we are going on a road, you might see the road says school ahead, drive slow. Now this is an alert and also a warning. So this is the mistake proofing thing. Those who will notice it, they will slow down. So this might prevent an error. Similarly, there are speed signs on the highways which will ensure that you do not drive beyond that specified limit. So that is again working as an alert or a warning signal that do not go beyond the speed limit. That's a mistake proofing mechanism. Similarly, there are signboards on the roads that says how many kilometers the next your destination is. Those are mistake proofing mechanism. We go in different places, and we find a lot of restrooms in hotels and offices and restaurants where for males and female we have different restrooms, and it is written there his or her, or some sign will be there. That sign is a visual management to ensure that you do not use a different restroom. That's again a mistake proofing mechanism to ensure. Similarly, in cars, in computers, in mobile, hundreds of mistake proofing mechanism you will find. In car, for example, if you're driving a car, if the door is not closed while you are driving, it will give you a sign, a warning sign will come, and there will be a beep sign, continuous warning will come unless you close the door. Now some companies have gone a step beyond it. When you are driving and door is not closed, it will automatically close the door. Similarly, that's because it's about what? Safety, right? So we are trying to prevent an error. Similarly, if you are not wearing your seat belt, so you will get a warning sign consistently until you wear the seat belts. Now wearing seat belts is very important because the airbags in a car will not open if you are not using your seat belt. So these two are related to each other. Now airbag is also mistake proofing mechanism. When an accident happens in a state of collision, the airbags will open so that the damage can be minimized. That's again a mistake proofing mechanism. You see a big dial, your dashboard in the car, which that tells you how much fuel is left, how many kilometers it can go with the fuel. So those fuel gauge is nothing but a mistake proofing mechanism. In the home, we have the MCBs that ensures when there is a short circuit, the MCB goes down. That will minimize of any chance of any fire in the home if in case of short circuit. Similarly, older days there used to be fuse, and some places you may still see those fuse boxes. If you take out the fuse, the light will go off. So in the fuse there will be a wire. So when there is current is very high in the power line, the fuse will goes off, burst. So you have to change the fuse, put a new wire in it, so electricity to resume. But then that's again a mistake proofing mechanism. So these are all mistake proofing mechanism that we see everywhere else. But then mistake proofing means that it's a very creative way of looking at things. So but what about the mistake proofing in the kind of work that we are part of, in the kind of industry we are part of? Service industry, if I talk about. So these days you would have seen when you are submitting a form on a website, when you're submitting an online form, you might notice that you cannot submit the form. Let's say you are applying for a bank loan and it is an online application. You will not be able to submit the application unless you have filled all the fields or the mandatory fields. The mandatory field would have an asterisk sign in front of it. Unless you fill it, you will not be able to submit it. Now that's a mistake proofing mechanism, because the bank is ensuring that they have all the information. They do not want to come back to you and do a follow-up. They want to reduce this follow-up, and they want to reduce the time taken to give you the loan. So they are ensuring that they have the all details, right details. Now how are they ensuring right details? You cannot write any number in the date of birth or any other column. For example, in your name you cannot write a number. If you write it, it will say incorrect input. So this way they are trying to ensure that the information they are receiving is correct, unless you are doing it deliberately. And then similarly, your address detail, at least the first line needs to be there. The city has to be selected, and sometimes they don't give you an option to select your city or the state or country. The moment you simply need to write your pin code and you will get the list, everything will be auto populated. Sometime if you have if you have applied for a bank loan earlier with the bank, they will have information saved also at times. So that saves time for you, and that reduces the scope for any incorrect mistake. You simply write your mail ID, it will populate all the fields for you. So you can simply submit it. So what is this? This is nothing but a mistake proofing mechanism where they're trying to prevent an error and make a process more effective. So this is a way of improving the process. Audit mechanism. audit is when team is working on a process and there is a team leader or a supervisor will pick up a sample of the process to understand how my team is performing. In that case, this audit will also work as a mistake proofing mechanism, so that before the actual output goes to the customer, let me first have a look at it and try to find if there are any errors which I can correct. So that's where mistake proofing becomes very, so this is also mistake proofing mechanism. So similarly, in the corporate world, we work with Excel macros, where we can make Excel sheets in such a way that when we are filling some fields in the Excel, it should have the same mechanism like we have an online application form. You cannot write a name in a date of birth column, and you cannot write date of birth in a name column. Similarly, we could build some validations like this. This is nothing but mistake proofing mechanism to ensure that you have the correct data, relevant data, and all the data with you. So that's about mistake proofing. It is again a very creative way of thinking about the process solutions. There is no standard way of doing it. That's where the red hat we looked at, where people are talking about the wild ideas, out of the box ideas that needs to be there, and green hat is something which is supporting this entire initiative, that I'm creating the space for you to look at. So Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats, mistake proofing, and brainstorming as a whole, these 3 things go hand in hand and they work in tandem to generate the best possible solution. So that's about mistake proofing, or poka-yoke, a Japanese technique to generate the potential solutions. After that, in the next session, we shall look at another very common way of looking at solutions called as 5S. So this is about the mistake proofing. Thank you for watching. This is Shivendra Sharma.